Welcome back, guys, to episode 3 of All Things Single Seater. We are here for the Australian Grand Prix review with myself and Jordan. And, well, what a race!
Yeah, I didn't really know what to expect coming into this weekend because obviously the track has changed. And I think most people was like that, drivers, teams, fans. But it was a really good race considering everything, the changes, the tyres, the new cars. Um, yeah. What about you? What did you think of it?
Yeah, it was good. I was expecting it to be a bit closer with Max at the front. I think Leclerc he never looked out of control, really. There were a few surprises and a few poor performances, but it was definitely really good. It was really nice when there was like a massive train from I think it was eighth or ninth to like 14th. That was good. Stroll with some questionable defensive driving at times, and some good overtakes. I'd say quali caused a few shocks though as well, didn't it?
Yeah, well, I think the whole weekend did. First of all, McLaren.
Mm,
Free practice. Obviously, you can never really take anything from free practice, but considering from where they've been the past two race weekends we've had to where they are now in the third race, you can definitely take something from that for them anyway. Um, yeah, quali, absolute madness. I don't even know really what happened. You know, when you have to process it
yeah,
after you've watched it,
yeah,
it's like, well, did that really just happen? Um, Yeah, definitely some shots, which I think we'll get into, and so on.
mm, yeah, definitely. I think yeah, starting with quali, I think the first thing to probably say is that instant in Q1 with Latifi and Stroll, which was it a tactic for Aston Martin to get Vettel out on track? I mean, who knows? But it looked a little bit weird.
Mm. Well, we messaged each other, didn't we, straight
Yeah,
after, and said, "Oh, the podcast shall be fun." Because obviously, if you've watched any of our previous episodes, you've probably seen us talk about Tiffy and Stroll quite a bit. Um, so we instantly messaged each other, just saying like, "Oh, I guess we'll be talking about them on Sunday." um, I don't know. Like, I think obviously Stroll got penalised for it, which I do think was the right thing. Um, but then part of me does think it was Latifi's side as well, like 50-50.
mm,
Um, he got told like to let drivers go past, so that's why he slowed down and kind of pulled over. Um, and he I don't think they told him what car was coming through on a fast lap, so he just thought it was probably the first car coming through, and it was Stroll. And then he saw he wasn't on a fast lap, so he thought we'd overtake him. Obviously, he done nothing wrong then, Latifi.
yeah,
But like Stroll should have been looking, which I'm guessing is why he got the penalty because he wasn't looking.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's one of those things where the more you look at it, the more you have more opinions about it, and you could just go on forever about it, really.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit poor from both teams, from both drivers. I think Latifi probably tried to push past Stroll because he then realised there was another car coming, but again, Stroll, he wasn't really in the middle. He was just in the middle of the track, and it was like mirror signal maneuver, mate. You taught it on your driving lessons. He didn't check his mirrors, and then he tried saying Latifi drove into him, which wasn't quite what happened. I did feel for Latifi at that moment because Crofty, Crofty was like, once again, we've got Latifi in the barrier. So because the replay kind of didn't show that there was contact, but yeah, it just looked amateur, didn't it? Really?
Yeah, it does make you question things. Obviously, we've questioned quite a bit with the two over the past couple of weeks,
Yeah.
if they'll be here next year and so on. And it's only the third race, and if you look back at how many times Latifi has crashed throughout the weekends,
Yeah.
it's quite a lot. And for a team like Williams, they can't afford it.
No. For a team like Williams that have got Albon scoring a point today as well, I mean, it does show, and both Latifi and Stroll, like Latifi's quality wasn't great and his race pace was pretty poor as well.
He finished.
He did finish, yeah, we'll give him that. It's an improvement on last week. But yeah, when Albon's starting behind you and finishing 8 places ahead of you or 7 places ahead of you and getting a point, it's granted there was issues like strategy kind of played it and they got a bit lucky with their gamble, but yeah, I said last week that potentially they could replace him mid-season. He'd have to be awful for that to happen, but he's not far off awful at the moment, I don't think.
Yeah, it definitely says something when, obviously, third race in and your new teammate who has never been in a Mercedes-powered car, a Williams car ever, he scores a point 3 races in,
Yeah.
and all you've managed to do is crash.
Yeah.
And obviously, Albon outqualified him before he got disqualified. So it raises big question marks, I think.
Yeah, definitely it does. And obviously, I think Stroll, with those penalty points, he's on 10 now, isn't he? Or is it 8 that he's on?
I think it might be 8. I'm not 100% sure.
But he's close, isn't he, to a potential race ban if he doesn't keep himself out of trouble. And obviously, I thought he did well from 9th when he was defending quite a lot, but there was a bit of weaving. I did say during the race actually that I thought you've got to kind of let them defend. Like, he's clearly in a slower car, but it was a little bit aggressive at times, which, so obviously rightly so, he got penalised for that. But I think he's clearly driving his socks off in that car.
Yeah, there's no like pushing that to the side or whatever. He did have a good race today, but
he's got more determination than talent, I think. Like,
yeah, I think he's determined to show the talent he thinks he's got.
Yeah.
Obviously, that goes too far, and obviously he's been penalised. And you should know when you're pushing too hard and out on, and yeah, he could have scored points if he wasn't driving so harshly.
Yeah, definitely, and it does kind of. I mean, sticking with Aston, obviously it was a bit of a poor weekend for Seb. Obviously, it wasn't really. He lost a lot of running and 2 crashes, which doesn't make it ideal. And where he crashed in the race, I thought was a bit odd. It was quite a late spin. It was almost like a bit inexperienced, and I don't know if you heard his radio after, but he sounded really deflated. Like,
I think he's possibly still suffering from like the effects of COVID. He didn't look good all weekend. No offense, Seb, but he just didn't look like he was with it. I don't know whether he's had enough of F1 or he's just recovering from being ill. You can't really tell the two apart.
Yeah.
He's obviously had a few weeks off with his family and recovering, but it does make you think, in those weeks off, has he decided on his future? And from what he said on the radio in the race, like after he crashed, it just sounded like it was done.
Sounded like a broken man. Like,
it did.
Yeah.
It did. It sounded like he was winning the race, and then he crashed, and then it just went horribly wrong. But they've Aston Martin have spent lots of money this weekend.
Yeah,
so.
They have. Obviously, the highlight of him coming back to the pits on a scooter. I thought that was pretty good. He got fined for it. I mean, you know, I get it, but it's not going to break Seb's bank. Let's be fair. He probably just gets a bit more media attention. That he probably felt more comfortable on the scooter, to be honest, than in the Aston Martin.
Yeah, I think well, he got fined for speeding in the pit lane as well in qualifying.
Mm.
Um, just seems like he's just, having the time of his life. Mm, instead of driving the F1 car, doing other bits.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, I'm just gonna, ride around the track and then speed in the pit lane. Yeah, he's driving the car, but who cares?
Definitely, he's clearly just yeah. It sounds like obviously he hasn't given up, but it sounds like he's lost a lot
Yeah.
of motivation. Yeah, but penalty points as well. We'll move on to Yuki because he's got more than Stroll, and I don't really think Yuki had a great weekend either. To be fair.
I was kind of expecting like a bit of a comeback for him.
Mm,
Um, like fresh start. It's a new track for him. Um, we didn't get that.
no.
I think if anything, like Gasly outperformed him, which obviously Gasly's done lots of times last year. Um, we've never seen both cars finish the race this
Mm,
year until now. Um, so it was quite interesting to see. I think that Yuki wasn't really anywhere. They was together outside the top 10, but then Pierre ended up scoring points. So it's like, well, why didn't Yuki?
yeah. Yeah, he definitely seemed off the pace. He wasn't what's the word? He wasn't very well liked by Gasly after qualifying. Obviously, going off and ruining his
Mm.
lap, which wasn't ideal. And obviously, he would have known that. That's the thing that I think kind of annoyed me with it is he would have known that Gasly was behind him because they would have told him on the radio. They came out at the same time. They were clearly doing their last runs. So I don't know. It would have been tight because yellow flags might have come out if Yuki was still off the track, but he could have just stayed on the grass and not like. I know it's not. Gasly probably would have had his lap time deleted anyway, but it's the fact that I think he just got back on the track and there was no real effort to try and get out of the way, um, which is a bit weird. But it's Yuki. He never fails to surprise.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, definitely never fails. I mean, speaking of surprise though, Alonso in quali, we were gutted. Like we were as. I mean,
Our predictions would have gone well out the window. Like,
yeah,
oh,
but I really felt for Fernando there because that lap, I don't think he would have got pole, but I think he would have top three was on the cards.
he could have. You never know. I don't think with that lap he would have. I think
Mm,
would have been second row maybe. Um, then he would have got another run if
yeah,
that didn't happen. Um, on a fresh set maybe. Who knows? Um, it's what if he didn't crash, so on. And it seemed like he was absolutely gutted. Like you think something really like horrendous, like traumatized him or something.
yeah,
And it must be gutting after so many years he hasn't been on pole or the front row or whatever.
yeah.
Then it now it is going for him.
Yeah, definitely, and he's still got a lot of fight and a lot of hunger in him. Like the retirement in Jeddah last week, he was hitting his head, well, hitting his helmet in anger, and he was really mad with the quali crash and everything. And I think he was a bit upset with the strategy today because it didn't really help him either. But he's clearly really, really motivated, I'd say.
Yeah, it does make me think, have they put Esteban as number one at the moment? Because he's performing and so on. Because obviously they've let the Alpine drivers race. Obviously we
Yeah,
saw in Jeddah. Um, obviously Alonso was unlucky in Jeddah as well. Um, no fault of his own in the race and so on. But has that made them think, well, hold on a minute, Esteban's been doing good. He's been there when it matters.
yeah,
How about we put him as number one for now if he keeps performing? If Fernando keeps performing and out qualifying, out racing, so on, and it might switch around.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's they don't always get upgrades at the same time as well, do they? In like the midfield teams,
No.
so it's got to be what driver. I guess obviously we don't know exactly all the time, but I guess it's what driver is performing better at that time. So that's not ideal, really. And yeah, he's definitely been unlucky, and the strategy kind of screwed him, and his tyres went off, and at the end, and it was just a let's get to the end kind of thing,
Yeah.
basically. But yeah, what other? Speaking of, well, I say surprises. Like Fernando in the race surprised me because he didn't do as well as I thought. But I'd say I was expecting a better show from Haas. I said last week that I thought they were going to do well. They,
Yeah, I think obviously everyone expected them to do well, like after the two races, well, race weekends. Um, but they obviously know Australia, the teams do. They've had a decent showing before in Australia, has to have. Um, but obviously this is a completely different car.
yeah,
So, and no doubt they've probably been told to be careful because of parts, money. They might not have been pushing as hard in qualifying or practice. So I think personally they was taking it easy in practices.
yeah,
That's because of money and how much they've spent over the past few weeks. Um, I do think the next track will suit them more. I don't know why, but I have a feeling that they needed a not a bad weekend, but an okay weekend,
yeah.
then have another good weekend coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah, I think with the money side of it, you're right, because drivers will get told to like behave on track or not push too hard if they do need. Obviously, the Haas, we don't know about their money situation for sure, but they've got less now that Mazepin's not in the car. It was definitely a good showing from Mick, though. He was closer to K-Mag all weekend. Obviously, out-qualified him, finish ahead. They had a good battle today, which was nice to see. Magnussen nearly lost it, and it was that a bit of heart in mouth moment, but it was a good save to get it back on track.
Oh, Mick as well.
Oh
When
yeah,
on the straight. Oh, I was going to throw up watching that. I love the fact that Mick does not swear on the radio.
yeah,
He,
yeah,
he censors himself, which I think is absolutely like you can tell he's such a sweet lad.
yeah. You can't hate him really.
Oh yeah, I think if anyone hates him, they're just got all
Mazepin's
of the
family.
reasons why. Um, yeah, that was a bit of like heart in mouth moment. But he done well. I don't. That was not Mick's fault. I think. Yeah, he done very well to control his car during that moment.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. It was a much better showing from him, and yeah, I'm hoping it was just down to the track or down to saving money.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then obviously we got McLaren. They had a good surge, didn't they? I was quite excited. I was hoping the McLarens were going to be allowed to battle, but Danny Rick was told to stay behind at the end because of fuel. I think it was. He had to fuel save or something, apparently. But still, a double points finish for them both, and hopefully they're back on track a little bit. Probably not exactly what they were.
Well, see, it's great. I love to see it. Especially Danny's home race. Like, what a time being the top 10. There was it all throughout the weekend, I think, even in practices. So that's obviously good. Obviously, Danny had a bit more enthusiasm about him being at home. His mouth must really hurt from all the smiling, even more so than normal. Yeah, I think the reason why they didn't race is because Lando had a problem.
Okay.
On the last lap, he got told he had a problem, and they relayed that to Danny, and Danny turned around and said, "If he's going slow," he was like, "Oh yeah, you can overtake him, but like don't put Lando under pressure."
Yeah.
Because obviously he's got a big problem where he could break down any second.
Yeah.
And he was trying to fix it whilst on track. So that's the reason, which I think was the best
Decision.
reason.
Yeah.
I think if it was maybe a podium place, it might have been different. But with it being fifth and sixth, I don't think that they needed to cause
They
any
might either
unnecessary.
way. Yeah. No, definitely. It was a good weekend for Bottas again, though. Alfa Romeo. I felt
Yep.
it kind of sucked for him in quali. I wanted him to extend his record. 103, isn't it? I think 103 Q3.
103, yeah.
So he's got to start from scratch again now. So I don't think he's going to beat that. But the race for him, I felt was good. There was some nice overtakes from him today, and coming back with more points is definitely what he needed after Jeddah.
Yeah, I think also for Guan Yu Zhou, he finished 11th. Obviously, he was so close to the points. He's got to be patient with the points, a bit like Yuki last year. We saw Yuki score points in the first race, and then it took him a good few races to be back in the points. Things he's got to take away from the weekend is he hasn't crashed. He's drove a good race, done some nice overtakes. Yeah, he should be proud of himself, even though he didn't score points. There's a lot to take away from it anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And it's also, talking about scoring points, this is the first season where only one team hasn't scored after round 3. I don't know if that's the first season ever, but it's the first season in a while, I think, from what they were saying on Sky. So
yeah,
that's pretty good as well. Like, all the teams are in positions to score points, I guess, apart from Aston Martin at the moment. But I mean, they will. I do think they will. They are going to be in a better position, hopefully, in a few races. I think they are going to be very much at the back this year, but I do think they'll have some good races still.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever count out Seb. He provides good racing no matter what team he is in.
Yeah.
No matter what car. So yeah, I think got to be patient. If it comes from anyone, it comes from Seb.
Yeah, 100%. And then we've got your fave driver ever getting a lovely podium today. Mercedes, how do you feel?
I'm not surprised. I actually, on my blog, I predicted Lewis to get a podium.
You didn't back your best pal. That is outrageous. That lap.
Sorry, George. No, obviously, George was very lucky under the safety car. So obviously Lewis lost out a bit then. If it was the other way round, we would have seen Lewis on the podium. That's the way it works. But both drivers have got podium this year, which is, I don't think Mercedes expected it. George's first podium for Mercedes.
Second in the standings. I don't think he can complain. They've got a good car. Yeah.
It looked good today. It didn't look as good in qualifying. I thought personally that we would have seen one of the Mercedes car in Q2.
Yeah.
But they managed to pull through and they scored points. That's the main thing.
Definitely, they've got to be consistent at this point where they don't have the best car. Their car still looked a little bit twitchy, but they're not going to fix it overnight. And I think they've got 2 upgrades coming in Imola. They've got a new rear wing and a floor upgrade, I think. So it will definitely be interesting at Imola to see how well they work, because there was this tweet claiming that they think they can build, what was it, 1.5 seconds or 1 second, or that they can.
Yeah, I think we mentioned it last time.
Yeah, so it will be interesting for sure, and it was definitely good to see Duras on the podium. Bit lucky, I think Lewis kind of knew it, but what goes around comes around. I guess there will be races in the future where Lewis will benefit from VSCs just this year so far. He's been absolutely ruined by them. But it's good to see one of the Mercedes on the podium again.
Yeah, well, obviously 3 different teams on the podium today, which is good. Obviously, 2 other teams were very unlucky. But I didn't really have the best of hopes for Mercedes going into this weekend. It seemed like they didn't either. They didn't know what to expect. I think they can take away from this that they have got a good car, and once it's unlocked, it's going to be a fight at the front. 3 teams, 6 drivers.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be down to which car's going to last the longest. Speaking of which, Red Bull. Why do they keep retiring? It was quite funny. I'm not going to lie, I did have a little chuckle to myself. I was like, here we go. And I was like, oh, Perez is now number 1. He's got more points. Get in. But you do have to feel for Max. I don't think he wasn't at it today, like on Leclerc's level, but it's 2 and 3 races.
Well, they went into the race already knowing that Max had problems. They started the race with
What,
a
car
problem
related or just Max has problems?
Well,
yeah, I think
no,
he probably does, yeah.
no, the car had problems. I think they realised that on like the way to the grid. They couldn't obviously they were doing stuff whilst on the grid. They couldn't fix it, so that's why we didn't see as close a battle with Max and Charles. There was a bit of closeness, which it was a bit like, oh, Max is going to get ahead, but Charles was just on. It was just see you later in Australia. Part of me feels sorry for Max, because this wasn't his fault.
No.
If you knew you had problems, you could have let Perez go ahead and see if Perez could challenge Charles for the win.
Yeah. I think it didn't help that Perez got overtaken by Lewis twice. Was it twice or was it 3? I've lost track of hours, to be honest. I haven't slept since. It's put me all out of sync. But he had a few battles. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah. Although 2018, Danny Rick had all the reliability issues and Max didn't. I'm not saying he deserves it, but, like, it can... You know, it can just swing around easily, can't it? And although I am glad that it was Perez that inherited the P2, because it won't make up for it, but it's kind of nice considering he lost the win in a potential win in Jeddah. So it kind of even, like, the points are all really close again still, which obviously it's only round 3. But I feel it was a good performance from Red Bull. They just didn't seem to have it consistently. They seemed to be really fast for some laps and then drop off, and then
yeah, I think they need to be worried. I think if anyone thought of a team having reliability issues in like the top 3 teams, I think everyone, including Red Bull themselves, thought Mercedes because of how their car was. Yeah. Then it makes you think, well, what about testing? Red Bull had problems, didn't they, in Barcelona?
Yeah.
It's like, well, hold on a minute. Has everyone forgotten about Barcelona? Or are we just starting from the first Grand Prix?
Yeah.
This is damaging Max's year already. He's 6th in the championship, 25 points.
Yeah, he's a lot.
It's not back. Good. Yeah. Charles is on. What's he on?
71. Was it 44? No, I'm not going to confirm it's 44. I might be wrong, but it's a lot. It's a lot of points right now.
He's on 71, and George is on 34.
34, 33. Yeah, and then Perez on 30, and then go on, get them up for us.
I'll get them up. But like, even the constructors, you've got Mercedes in second. Ferrari are into the 100 points already, which is obviously
Mental.
they've had 3 good race weekends apart from Carlos's today. Yeah, they've got a really good car, and I think they need to start believing they've got a really good car, because they go into the weekends and like, oh no, Red Bull are going to be out in front, blah blah blah. You need to believe in yourself, otherwise it will not happen eventually.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think they do. Speaking of Ferrari, though, yeah, Charles absolutely on it all weekend. Carlos, I felt for him in quali. He doesn't look that aggressive. It doesn't quite look like the Carlos from last year, and the only time he was aggressive was when he beached it in the gravel. It was just such a poor show. I literally said, I was like, oh, great, he's out. I was looking forward to seeing Carlos try and fight through the field.
Yeah,
Because I still think he could have got a P4 based on the pace. Like, we don't know if he would have beaten both the Red Bulls, but with Max's retirement, he still could have got a podium, in fact. So it's one of them. It's just a really big error for Carlos at this stage when his teammates being really, 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 really rapid.
yeah, I think Carlos, I think it would have been good to see the Ferrari come through the field. Because then they know for future races, penalties, engine penalties, and they would have seen, well, they would have had data, obviously, from this race, if Carlos didn't have his moment. But now they don't have anything.
Yeah.
So it kind of sets them on the back foot, kind of, whereas Mercedes, obviously Lewis, obviously really bad, but he worked his way up through the field and scored a point. So now Mercedes have that from a car which isn't the best.
Yeah.
It makes you think, well, what about when their car is one of the best? Oh, it will go through the field.
Yeah, definitely.
I have the standings up.
Nice.
So Charles in first with 71,
Mhm.
George 37, Carlos 33, so he's in third. And then you've got Perez with 30 in fourth, Hamilton fifth, 28, and then Max. Esteban Ocon is seventh.
He's got points
5
every
points.
race, isn't he? Is he?
5 points behind Max. And then you've got Lando in eighth, Magnussen ninth, and Bottas finishes the top 10.
Nice. It's a good
Yeah,
top 10.
McLaren. It's
It's a
very
mixed
different to
top
last
10.
year.
Yeah, it's a mixed
Yeah.
top 10.
But last year we saw obviously both Mercs, both Red Bulls, Lando. Was it both Ferraris as well? They were in top 10. I'm going to say one of the Alpines as well, but obviously now we've got Haas, Alpha, Alpine, McLaren, Mercedes, 2 Ferrari, 2 Red Bull.
Yeah.
So it's nice that it's different. But it kind of shocked me where, yeah, had such a good start to the season last year. He is now in 12th with 6 points.
Yeah, I mean, did he score points today? Yeah. So I want him to get back to his. I don't want to say back to his best because I don't think he's got a dip in form. I think it is just there's a problem with the car because not a problem with the car, but it's just not as quick as they want it to be because he has been putting in good laps and like good. He's had some good quality sessions and I think the car just needs a bit of improvement or they need someone to help maybe develop that car a bit more. But this is where Gasly needs to prove that he can be a guy to lead a team. And if they're having issues with the car, he needs to try and help rectify that and get input from Tsunoda as well, which Tsunoda said he wants to get more into the car development and setup and stuff, so that would be interesting. But yeah, I do feel for Gasly at the moment. We need to see him in a better car, 100%.
Yeah, but it's the fact of if he doesn't perform, he won't be in any car.
Yeah.
Which is obviously harsh. One thing I've got to say is, first two races, everyone was like, Mercedes power unit are rubbish. McLaren have done so terrible because of the power unit. All Mercedes' fault. Where's that for Red Bull? The Alpha. No, it's not.
Yeah.
Because obviously Red Bull wouldn't be performing as good. Same with Mercedes and McLaren, obviously finishing top 10. It's not that, it's the fact that it's a brand new car and they're trying to figure out what works.
Yeah.
That's like something to highlight, that you cannot blame the team who makes the engine. If it's a rubbish engine, all the teams would be at the back.
They would, yeah. In this era of Formula One, they would, yeah, because it's so, margins are so fine. I think now that some of the drivers said before that it's quite hard to identify an issue because everything is like just should work effectively. So, you know, I do get that. I do think they could have a strong showing in Imola though. I think there are going to be some shocks in Imola, and I do think it's going to be a poor one for Merc, just because it's opposite. It's a bit opposite to Australia, isn't it? It's a lot more high-speed corners.
Yeah,
But
I'm having flashbacks to last year with obviously Bottas and the Williams of George, and it's like, oh no.
Same again this year, please.
No. I think George has learnt from his mistake. But see, you said about them possibly bringing upgrades. It might be completely different. Don't know. I want them to have,
isn't it?
Yeah. I think even like later on in the season, we still don't know. Obviously, tracks coming back, Singapore, Japan. We have no clue what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And with the ones we've been to last year, Mexico, COTA, we don't know. Anything could happen. And obviously with development and
weather
breaks between the races, you don't know what the teams are doing. So I think every race is an unknown, and you can say that it's going to be a Ferrari and Red Bull battle once again, but really that battle is only between Max and Charles.
Yeah.
I feel like Sergio, but I feel like the other two, obviously Carlos and Sergio, are more fighting with both Mercedes. I don't feel they're battling for the win, which is a bit strange to me.
Yeah.
But
that's gonna be a bit awkward now, because I was gonna give you my top 5 for Imola.
Oh no.
And it just throws everything that you said out the window. And let me rethink. I was gonna say, it's hard. It's picking the order for the top 4 drivers, basically. Well, but I was gonna say Sergio in with a shot if it's a dry race. If it's wet, then I think no. But actually, no, I take that back. Sergio was good in the wet. I don't know where I got that from. But I think based on last year, obviously he out-qualified Max there. Different car, different year, and I get that. But he really enjoys the track, and I think the track will suit them and Ferrari both for different reasons. But I think they will be closer at Imola than they were this week.
I kind of agree. even though obviously what I just said, I think, like, thinking about it, I think the reason why Max won last year because he was so aggressive.
Yeah.
Um,
Pushed Lewis off at turn one.
yep. Which I thought was unfair. I think that's the reason why he won. Will he be this aggressive in a few weeks? I don't think so. I haven't seen really that aggressiveness from him this year. See, there's been moments where like him and Charles are playing chicken with DRS and whatever, which isn't aggressiveness; it's just tactics.
Yeah.
But where has that aggressiveness gone?
Yeah.
You had it all last season, and even though you said you haven't got anything to prove, you have.
Yeah.
More so now.
I kind of think the coin's flipped a little bit. I don't think it's flipped really in favour of Sergio outperforming Max regularly, but I think it's going to help because the car is more suited to Sergio than it is to Max this year. Not by choice. Obviously, it's the way that the car's handling is more understeery, and he likes getting the back end out of the car and having it like snaps of oversteer through the corners and being that aggressive guy of putting the power down and catching it and really hustling the car. And Perez has always been like not a calmer driver, but almost like a smooth driver and very preserving of the tyres and a bit more relaxed. So I think because it not relaxed, that's probably a bit harsh, but just not as on edge, and because maybe the car is naturally more understeery, I think that is just suiting Checo, and that's why I think they're a lot closer at this stage of the season.
Yeah, and I think the same is for Ferrari. I think the car suits Charles more. Charles has changed his driving style a lot in the past, since he's been in Formula One. Whereas Carlos, he's obviously had a lot more cars from different teams compared to Charles, so he's had to change his driving style a lot. And even though the Ferrari suited him this year, I don't think it suits him at all this year. Doesn't suit him at all this year.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
So I think it's a bit of that with the top two teams. Drivers need to change their style with the car.
Yeah.
And then you're going to have maybe a four-way battle for the win.
That's what I want. That's really what I want. And I think that's probably why I might be being a bit over-ambitious, maybe predicting Checo to potentially be a contender win in Imola, but I really want it to be either Checo or Carlos, just for of how close it is. Or, to be fair, and Max, because he has had 2 DNFs, so he's further back than they are. I mean, I would be happy if Charles won, but I'd prefer it to be one of the other 3, just to make it more interesting at this stage, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I completely agree, but I want a surprise win. I want someone from a different team.
Albon. Alright, maybe not.
God! Well, you never know after his performance today. I want someone who you don't think is going to win this early on in the season to do it and shock people. If it's wet in Imola, going to have a crazy race, I think. Obviously, last year, you do one tiny little mistake and on the grass. You saw what happened to George and Valtteri.
Oh, please can Valtteri win this year? Just to undo all of last year, just to win in Imola.
Makes me think, well, that could potentially happen with Max and Charles. They're going to come together at some point. A bit like last year, it was inevitable that Max and Lewis was going to come together.
Yeah.
Championship contenders will always come together at some point. Can just get it out the way though early on in the season. I want a surprise or even a surprise podium. Alpine maybe. They've got pace, even though it wouldn't be that much of a surprise. It depends where they qualify. Qualify out of top 10 and get on the podium. Not going to expect it. But who knows? It all depends on weather.
Yeah, definitely. I think so for sure. But I'm going to predict my top 5 now. I think. I'm going to say Sergio, Charles, Max, and then it's going to be Carlos and. No, it's going to be Lewis, then Carlos. Top 5, I think.
Oh.
Bold.
I don't know. I don't think you can count out Charles at this minute.
No.
But I'm going to stick with him. He's going to have momentum. Obviously, they're in Italy. See, Ferrari and Italy. It's just
Match
be
made in
amazing,
heaven.
I think. Obviously, fans are back there. So I just think they're going to have a really good weekend. I'd want Carlos to do well. But I think he might finish fourth, just outside top 3. I think
Okay.
he might battle for P3.
Yeah.
But I do think both Red Bulls will be on the podium. Not sure on what order. Um, and I am going to say Esteban Ocon in 5th.
Oh, I like it. He's becoming a bit of a a favourite of mine, just based on this year and last year. He's growing each
Yeah,
time.
I think the same. I think he done some questionable things a few years ago before he had his year out. But last year and this year so far, he's really improving. I don't know whether that's because he partnered with Fernando and
Yeah.
he's got that world champion teammate. That might be edging him on. Whatever it is, it's working.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sticking with him for my 5th place.
I like it. No, that is. Yeah, that to be fair, I think both of them could happen. I think I've gone safer than you have this week. I'm kind of predicting that Mercedes, their upgrades will work, but I don't know if they will work to what they're going to say. So that's why I got Lewis in there. But with an Alpine, it's a bit like me last week predicting Magnussen to get 5th, or I think I said 5th. Didn't I? I think I said 5th
Yeah.
for K-Mag.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that clearly was wrong. Do you have any more F1 news to add or related news on this weekend?
I saw something, obviously, last week or the other week, we spoke about Porsche and Audi.
Yes.
I saw something about potentially Audi talking to Aston Martin
Ooh.
instead of McLaren.
Okay.
I think Porsche and Red Bull are done deal. But I think it's just Audi now seeing what Aston Martin say. I don't know if it's 100% true.
Okay.
Obviously, it's all rumours at the moment. I'd say it makes a lot more sense for Aston Martin to go with them than McLaren.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how you feel about that.
I think it makes sense for Aston Martin to do it because they're saying that they've got this. Obviously, they're saying they've got this massive plan. So if maybe the engine has been factored in on that, and they're not expecting results instantly. Maybe like a Honda when they first came in, just not as bad potentially. So it could be that they've factored that in, and that Audi and them have a long-term goal, that they don't want quick success. They want to build like almost like a Mercedes powerhouse. I'm not saying that it could be that or that they will get to that stage, but it makes sense, I think.
Yeah. What was I going to say? One thing to make note of is there was two Formula 2 drivers at the two Formula 2 drivers at the Australian Grand Prix on reserve duties, both Red Bull juniors, Yuri Vips and Liam Lawson. Yuri for Red Bull and Liam for Alpha Tauri. Could be a potential move for next year. They're both looking like the contenders for Formula 2, which returns in Imola in a few weeks' time. So yeah, I think that's something to make note of. If they're going to be at Grand Prix when they're not racing, this could be a sign of what's to come. And drivers market, keep an eye out for them. I don't know if there was any other Formula 2 drivers there.
Piastri was, but not. I don't think he was there as a. I know he must have been. I think he was there because he.
I think he's going to all the races this year, obviously as the reserve and so on.
Yeah.
But he ran more, see, this weekend because it was his home Grand Prix.
Yeah.
He done a lot of interviews, meet and greets with the fans, I think. And they absolutely loved him.
Yeah.
So I think the team would be silly not to get him in a car next year with how everyone reacted. Again, he seems like a lovely guy, just like Mick. And well, Lando made a joke saying if Fernando carries on with the way that he done today, because basically got that seat for next year or so on. It's nice to see that even though Lando and Alex haven't raced with Oscar before, which is a bit mad to think considering they're only a few years older. Well, Lando being 22 and Oscar being 21, never raced against each other, and the F1 drivers think a lot of him already, especially Daniel.
Yeah, definitely. It's nice to see. I think with the Vips and Lawson as well, I think they could potentially be going in case Yuki does get a race ban, because it's not out of the question, is it? I mean, you got to think if he gets involved in one more incident, really, isn't it? Effectively, because it's more likely going to be 2 penalty points for if he does. So he only needs 2 more, and it's a ban. So I mean, I'm not sure when they come off though.
I'm not sure.
We'll have to check that. But
we've got a few races coming up. Obviously, we've got 2 weeks until Blah, and then after that, I think we're in Miami.
Yeah.
2 weeks. Yep, 2 weeks after, and then another 2 weeks, and we've got a double header. So it could potentially happen, and Liam and Jury will be free for Miami and Spain
if needed. Yeah.
I think. I'm not sure about Spain. I think so. But they'll be there anyway for Monaco and Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think if he did get a race ban, it would be Liam in the car because of
he's done more, hasn't he?
Drove the Alpha Tauri, whereas Yuri's drove the Red Bull. Obviously, in power unit, but 2 very different cars.
Yeah, completely different. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it would be good to see though. Nothing against Yuki, but if it does happen that he gets a ban, then it would be nice that they put a junior in there straight away. Like show the trust for their academy, which they are good at doing. To be credit to Red Bull, they do put a lot of pressure on young drivers, but they give trust in them. So it would be nice to see that. And yeah, just another look to the future, really. And see what's coming through, because there's a lot of good drivers coming through, which is really exciting to see.
Yeah, I think as well, looking to like the US side of things, IndyCar. Colton Herta this weekend has set the newest lap record this weekend, and obviously got on pole. So it will be interesting to see where he finishes Sunday night, which is tonight.
Yeah.
I think you can't count him out. He's had an okay start to his season, but if he gets the win later today, then I think it's all eyes on him, as well as a few of the F2 drivers. Yeah, I haven't heard of any rumours within contracts for other teams so far.
No,
I don't know about you.
nothing
The
yet.
only one I've heard is Carlos extending his with Ferrari, but this is supposedly, it's been going on for months now.
Might have taken a step back after today.
I thought that. Well, I thought it last week. Why hasn't it been announced?
I reckon they're going to see what he's like. I think because Charles has done that well, I think they're going to see if Carlos has got it in him to get back to where Charles is, maybe. Or if he can serve as a very good number 2.
No, I think they're looking at Mick. I think they've got their eyes on him.
Yeah.
It's obviously his second year. When will be the right time? Is there ever a right time to get into that Ferrari? Probably not.
I reckon. I reckon they'll extend Carlos's deal for next season, and I reckon it'll be a 2-year deal with an option of a third, but it will have performance contract in there that if Mick does well and they want to put him in, they can in 2024. Just because I think Mick will benefit this year with Magnussen a lot, and I think it would be good to have him with K-Mag for 2 years running, building his confidence and building his track knowledge and his racecraft and everything. So I think that would be more. I think it'd be better for him to stay at Haas for this year and next year, at least, really. But I would love to see him in a Ferrari, 100%.
Yeah, I think it would just be amazing. One thing I did see, obviously, since we last done podcast was Max's contract. It's got a get out clause in it, which I thought was quite surprising. So obviously, Lando hasn't got a get out clause.
Does he not? Wow. Okay.
That's
bold for McLaren.
No, I thought if anyone had a get out clause, it would be him. Max has, which you can kind of understand why it's
clever from Max, I think.
Yeah, I don't really see him being with any other team than the Red Bull. I think it would be really weird to see him like Ferrari Red, say, or don't know, like say if an Aston Martin got really good in 5 years' time, past their 5-year plan. I think it would be weird to see him in another colour. I just don't think it would look right.
Yeah. Curveball, he'll replace Lewis. Imagine. No, I don't think Mercedes would ever do that. Based on the history, I don't think he'd ever go there. Not for a while.
No, I think Mercedes have got a few people they're looking out for. You're always looking forward. Whether you're team principal, the team as a whole, or a driver, you're always looking forward. As much as they say that they're not thinking about the future, in the back of their mind, it's niggling away on an off day when they're not training. They're thinking, well, what's going to happen? They obviously, the younger ones are looking at the ones who are getting older. We've got 4, 5 older ones now in their 30s.
Yeah, Danny Rick's one of them.
Valtteri's one of them.
Valtteri, Alonso, Vettel and Lewis.
Lewis.
Who else is
Yeah,
over 30? Is anyone else over 30?
That's it.
Wow. Oh, no, I'm not... Grosjean, yeah, Grosjean was over 30. Kimmy's gone. Yeah, a lot of the old ones, have gone. Yeah.
So, what, you've got 15 young drivers. That's absolutely mad. You've got 15 young drivers. Well, 15 drivers in their 20s.
In their 20s, yeah.
You've got 4 drivers in their 30s and 1 in their 40s.
Go on, Fernando.
So obviously the young ones will be looking keeping their eye out, especially the ones on a 1 year.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be interesting. I think there will be a lot of driver talk over the next couple of weeks leading up to going into summer break and everything. But it's probably going to be a bit quiet at the minute. I think we'll get to silly season probably around Monaco, just after Monaco maybe, and then we'll start seeing the rumours and the driver talk and the performance chat and everything. But I'm calling it, it's going to be Latifi and Stroll that are getting slated, and that's just because I say it every week. And they proved me right this week. Yes. See, I predicted something, and it came out.
Oh,
Love to hear it. Love to see it. Just got to hope I get it right for Imola now. But that's that's gonna wrap up the episode for today, though, guys. So as always, thank you for watching, and don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Jordan's Twitter. And we will see you all in a few weeks for the what track is it? Imola. It just left my head then. I always did that perfectly, but we will see you all next time for the Imola GP review.